let's talk about a command line option. So command line option, we can make use of an external tool called VastDB CLI. So this is different than the VCLI. The VCLI is really more of an administrative tool. It requires you to log into the C node and execute some things. The C node using VCLI. We're not providing an interface to the catalog through the VCLI with this, but we do have this utility called the VastDB CLI, which is available from our GitHub repository. Go to github.com, vastdata, VastDB CLI, has some setup instructions, how to go through and run this. And this CLI command here is actually generic enough or designed in such a way that it is usable not only for catalog, but also for audit, but for all of the other databases, any other database that might live on Vast. There'll be some initial setup where you have to go through and provide that S3 user key or that that S3 access and secret key for that, pointed to the VIP pool as part of the setup. But you can go through and run these commands here. Now, in this case here, this is a very simple command that I'm running here, where I'm telling it, hey, I want to go through and I want to query the catalog for this. And I want to look at the path of slash. Again, this is going to be the default tenant here because I'm not specifying any other tenant. So it's going to look at the entire of the element store, and I'm looking for files that are greater than 1 terabyte in size. So it gives me a list here of this here. Now, I know I happen to have more files out there, more objects out there that are larger than this, but at least with this query here, it's only giving me the first 10 that it has. And there's options to tell it to give you more. But gives you an example of things here as to that. And so again, some basic data: where it's located, what the name of the file is, when it was last modified, who the owner of the file is, what is the group that is with it. And you can set some flags as to what data you actually want to have a return. So another option to go through and do without having to set up a lot of different things to run. We do also have the Python SDK, or the Vast Database SDK, for this, which allows you to go through and run these types of queries from a Python script for this. Again, our GitHub repository here is available. If you already have Python set up and you want to go through and do this, just run pip install vastdb for this. Now, here's an example kind of a script that you can go through and run here. So it's a Python script here. I provide it with my information, my connect information here. This is the VIP pool I'm going to utilize for access, my access key and secret key for this. These are temporary keys, so I don't care about having these out there. They'll be gone by the end of the day anyways. And then the connects here, and then what types of objects we're going to go through and look at. So we're going to go through and look at, here's the total number of objects in the element store. I'm going to go through and take a look at the types of objects that I have here for this, and display the different information for that. So this will go off and run. And it tells me, hey, I've got this number of different objects in there. These are the total number of files that are in there. Why are these numbers a little bit different? Well, because some of these are some of these may be block devices, some of these may be other items that are out there, but these are files or S3 objects specifically for the second run. And then the different types of things that are out there. So I can see here that I've got files, directories, I've got database tables, I've got blocks on here, block devices on here, because this is 5.3. We have block that we can go through and share out as well. So Run goes through and runs this. And this is another pretty good option to go through and do that and make use of that as well. If I want to go through, I want to query the REST API itself. For this, we can go through and do this. So if you want to see what options are there for the REST API, you can go through it on the Vast cluster. If you go to the VMS login screen, but instead of logging in, you would go through and just have the IP/docs. There, you'll get a documentation for our API interface. We would want to go through, and we would go through. If you scroll out into database, there's entries in there for catalog specifically. Any of the queries we're going to go through and make are going to be against the big catalog config endpoint. Why it's big catalog config as opposed to big catalog, more for historical reasons when things were put in for that, but it's big catalog config is the REST API endpoint that we'd want to go through and use. So you can make a query directly against that. If you want, an example or a quick and easy way of doing it, we do have a downloadable utility as part of this SDK called VASPI CLI, which would allow you for scripting if you wanted to just run a couple bash commands against this rather than having to write your Python script. For that, you can go through and make use of this here. And I have kind of an example here of what that command would look like using the VASPI CLI. As part of the SDK, again, we have to go through and we have to provide VMS credentials because we're going into the REST API. So you'd have to, I'm using the VMS user. This is the address that I'm using for the VMS IP address. And then the VMS password happens to be the default for this case here. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to construct my command. VAST CLI, I'm going to do a post for this. I want JSON output coming as a response. I'm going to go through and query data. I only want the first 2 entries that I get back. It was nice because it fit on the screen for this. I'm going to look at, pwags mix is the directory, and I want to get the parent path, the name of the file, the last time it was accessed, and the size of that particular file. And I'm going to look for any file that was accessed more than 2 days ago. Okay, and it gives me out some of the results here. So I've got 2 different files here that were created, they were last accessed more than 2 days ago for this. So these 2 files there, there's not a lot of activity on this directory, so these files were last touched on April 29th when they were there. They're not, they're just touch files, so there's no space for them. So you can see another example on going through and accessing things there. So, but those there are pretty useful. You can go through, write some basic commands to go through and do things, but that's not necessarily where a lot of the power lies in what you can do with the database. So let's talk about some more complex things where we can actually do a lot more information. So if we make use of a query engine, so a query engine might be Apache Spark or Trino or something else there. We can go through and we can leverage the power of these query engines to do a couple things. We can go through and improve performance, first off, of this. And this can be done, again, either for the catalog or for the audit logs or for the database in general, where it can be distributed out across multiple engines. So if I'm writing complex queries to multiple tables, multiple databases, these query engines can have multiple query engines out there. They'll spread the workload. They can also go through and communicate across multiple C nodes there to give us more throughput, more processing capabilities across the cluster, and really leverage some of the power that we can go through and have these very complex types queries to go through and utilize those. So they also, the advantage of some of these query engines is that they also have more built-in functions. So if you notice, for these, I have to go through it. I can call out, ands and ors, look for particular columns for this and get data back. But, I want to go through let's say I want to know what the count of a directory is in there. That's a little more complex. It takes some more additional types of things that need to be done there. That's what these query engines are really, better for this. With the other options, with doing the VCLI, you'd have to go through and say, hey, I want to retrieve all these columns for this, and then I have to manually count each one of those up with the results and then spit out the results there. These query engines will do it as part of the query for that with something like sum. For this. So I'm not going to go through on how to set up Trino. It's going to be very similar to the method. You have to go through and set up your access key, user keys, and things like that for this to allow those to communicate with it, a little bit beyond what we're going to be able to do in this webinar here. But if you want kind of an example there, we do have a nice utility or a nice baked-in demo referred to as catalog in a box that kind of demonstrates how this goes together. Definitely not made for production use by any means for that, but if you want something to kind of poke around and play with there, we do have a thing called a catalog in a box. Talk to your local sales team, talk to your local SE about how to go through and obtain that. Catalog in a box is nice because it's literally, okay, what's your VMS IP, what's your access key, what's your secret key, okay, good, go from there. And it includes some other things like Grafana dashboards and